Hey, we're Kurt and Denette Schaer with the Broken for Better podcast.
Yeah, and together we're on a mission to equip and empower marriages. We want to strengthen families for everyday life.
Enjoy the episode.
Today we have the awesome privilege to talk about expectations.
Expectations.
Now, here's the thing. We love to talk about the things that we discuss in our coaching office.
Yeah.
Because we realize these are real. They're prevalent.
Mhm.
It's what couples are going through. And this expectation. We've actually talked about expectations in the past, but it kind of hit us differently here
Yeah.
recently
Yeah.
because we've had some sessions where we realized that one or both spouses were having a tough time meeting the expectations of their partner.
Mhm.
Now, what was crazy was the thought of the partner, how the expectations were actually set.
Right.
And I remember when those sessions were over, you and I debriefing them like, wow, that's a crazy thought, or that's a crazy idea that was the expectation, that was the desire. And sometimes those desires aren't even voiced. So now you have this desire, this expectation that can never be met because it's been never voiced.
Yeah. Do you think expectations, as just a general term, do you think they're good or bad? Do you think they're normal? Like, I think there's both.
Normal,
and.
yes.
Yeah.
I think expectations can be good,
Hmm.
but they can be bad. If I set an expectation on you that you don't know about,
Hmm.
or there's no possible way you can meet it,
Right.
it's only going to erode our marriage.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let me give you an example of that, just for someone that might want clarity on that. When you think about something and you long for your spouse to meet this unspoken expectation, whether that be in the bedroom, whether that be, with the kids or romance, whatever it is, and you haven't voiced that, you're literally setting them up for failure. It's like this unknown marker that they're supposed to meet, and they're blindfolded trying to find it. Like, there's no way they could possibly know. And I've been there, especially as a female, just hoping, I hope he reads my mind and wants to take me out to dinner tonight and
I feel like that was
wine and
like,
dine me
I
like
feel like
tonight.
that was real.
I'm just saying tonight you can, but
Well, that was now a spoken expectation.
oh, now it's spoken. So it's no longer
So this could be good or bad because
unspoken expectation. Right.
I personally love you having expectations.
Mm.
Like, you have an expectation that one day I'll massage your back. That's a phenomenal expectation. Because now you get to live with the anticipation and the excitement that one day this is going to be met and I'm going to see this come to fruition.
I feel like that was I didn't like the way you did that. It's like you're holding back purposefully. That's the opposite of the healthy expectations we're trying to relay.
No, it is a very good expectation that you have. I'm very bad at meeting it.
Or
And
yes.
you voiced it.
Yes.
And you voiced it.
Well, or you're bad at meeting it and just offering a massage, if we're going to be real. There's both hands. Anyways, moving on. I digress. You've got good expectations, you've got unhealthy expectations, you've got unvoiced expectations. What about the expectations that are maybe big versus small? Maybe there's something that one party kind of expects out of the other one, or they make it very hard for their spouse to meet expectations.
So we learned this firsthand
Mhm.
in one of our sessions, and this was eye-opening to me.
Mm.
In conversations, one spouse was just like, it was on the topic of dating,
Mhm.
and one spouse wanted to go on dates more, and one spouse thought that they went on a lot of dates. And so now you're really confused because you're like, wait,
Do you date or do
do
you
you
not
not?
date?
How
Right,
does
yeah.
one person? And once we started breaking this thing down and listening to them talk,
Mhm.
you and I consider if you and I get in the car and we go to Outback for dinner, that's a date.
Right. Well,
It's not
we
high
would consider.
key,
Right.
very low key. Chill, two best friends kicking it right up the road, spend an hour and a half together. It's wonderful. That's a
Mhm.
date. What we come to find out is not everyone views going to dinner a date.
Right.
And when I was like, whoa, break that down, because I thought that was a date, the spouse looked at me and said, you're going to eat dinner anyway. So there's nothing intentional. There's nothing special about that. You're
Mhm.
just doing what you're going to do as a human. You asked me to tag along.
Yeah.
But the one spouse was like, no, I've thought that was a date.
Yeah.
Like, we're going out. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is crazy. Like, your expectation of what a date is, man, I want to get fancied up. I want high intention. This is going to take 5 to 6 hours, like huge intention. That's a date.
But that's a very high expectation for most couples. So, so it depends. Yeah. So it's
100%.
like defining those is important. We have couples that going to a movie is not considered a date for them. Some couples would be. I
Do
think
you
for
think
us,
going to movies a date?
oh, I think it is for us. We usually will bookend it with something else,
I
but
don't think it
but
is.
it's hard because when you're in a movie, you can before and after discuss the movie, talk about what you think it's gonna be about, but during the
Yeah.
movie, you're not really conversating, but again, that goes back to expectations. Not only can expectations be different from marriage to marriage, it can be different from person to person.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to these little nuances in our relationships, are we talking about those things?
How
So
long
that
do you go? I've never actually asked you this. How long do you go with me missing an expectation before you tell me?
Now probably not very long. I think earlier in our relationship, I would kind of wait. Oh man, I hope he's going to meet this expectation. Oh man, I
Mhm.
hope that maybe sees my unhealthy posture because a lot of times what we do in order to gain someone's attention is we end up taking on an unhealthy posture. Man, I hope he sees me huffing and puffing.
So
Man, I
good.
hope he sees me
So good.
sad. Man, I hope, and that's so unhealthy, right? But we do that so often instead of saying, man, you know what? I really miss you.
Mm.
And my desire would be for us to go on a date soon. I feel like we haven't done one in a while. And it's so much healthier because then we're literally giving our spouse this marker to meet. Even in times of like lack, in times where we don't have a lot of, extra income or finances to do some high end date, it doesn't even need to be that, but making it more about the connection point and saying, man, I really long for this, which that can go with anything, transitioning into a different expectation. It could be even things around the house, like a chore. Man, does he see the dishes in the sink? Man, I've done them the last 4 times. Does he does he see, this or that? Does he see the shoes that there's little things that
No,
I think
you're getting personal
I'm
now.
getting a little no, but every couple deals with these little
Yeah.
things that can be, and I think we can get in these ruts of just picking up an offense for something we haven't voiced that potentially isn't bothering our partner at all. I'm definitely more disorganized than you, and early in our relationship, I think I wouldn't see things that you would see, and so it would bother you, but instead of us expressing it, we would have this tension point.
Yeah, I
And
I can when you talk about even the huffing and puffing, and you talk about your posture, I remember seasons
of
that
extreme huffing and puffing.
well, no,
Oh.
like when you would take on a wrong posture,
Mm.
I could care less,
Hmm.
and so it had me then take on a negative posture. Oh, that's what you're gonna oh, cool. Then I'm gonna do the same thing.
Which is so healthy,
Eh,
right?
it's awful,
Right, yeah.
but think about
Mm.
how many times and how often that happened,
Yeah,
and think about 2 people now huffing and puffing for 2, 3, 4 days, and then until finally something hits the fan,
right.
and now we're in a major blow up because it was seated in this misexpectation that we never voiced.
Yeah.
I'm thankful now that at least I'm in the season. I may not always like the answer, but I'm thankful now that at least when I see a posture that I'm like, "Oh, I don't like that," I care enough now to go, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah. And
What
I think we're learning to not maybe or I'm trying to learn to not gain that posture as quickly.
For sure.
Like, yeah, for sure.
But there are still, and now I don't even think it's expectations. I think potentially postures come now more when feelings are hurt.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I
Absolutely.
think we're pretty good at speaking on expectations now and letting each other know, "Hey, this is my desire.
Right.
This is what I would like to do."
Yeah.
But there's many times, man, you hurt someone's feelings, then postures happen, and I think that's when we're more keen to go, "Stop. You're not," because we care.
Right.
So and that's what what we constantly and continually say over and over and over again. Care enough about your marriage to ask the hard questions.
Yes.
Are you okay?
Mhm.
Is everything good between us?
Mhm.
How is your heart? These questions matter. And it so diverts you from these long stretches of tension and bad body language and fighting and arguing. No, just a simple question, have a 5-minute conversation, and then move together in oneness.
Right. Yeah.
It matters to ask the question.
Yeah. Another thing that, when it comes to expectations, I think we've seen couples that maybe walk with negative, like they walk into almost their everyday with a negative lens on. And so there's certain things that maybe your spouse is doing for you that we have grown so accustomed to seeing them do that we no longer appreciate it. Um,
Hmm.
there's certain things, whether it's, oh, my spouse always takes out the trash, or my spouse always gets the mail, or my spouse is the one that always does the laundry. Or there's these little roles, these like ruts of relationships that we kind of just fall into that become our thing or your thing. And there are things you've always done, things I've always done. And then there might be this little unmet expectation, and we're so quick to be so discouraged because our spouse didn't meet this one thing that we thought they should meet. And yet we've overlooked all the other things that they've done to show us love that day or that week or that month, because we're so more inclined to focus on the things they miss or the negative things instead of the unbelievable things they do for us, you know?
So you just saying that
Mhm.
made me think about one that I have,
Okay.
and I've never thought about it till just now.
Is this confession time? I'm excited. What are we gonna confess?
I and we've talked about this before in a way, but I'm just now realizing the negative side of my behavior.
Okay.
There was a day that I would come home from work and candles could be going, the house would be immaculate, jazz would be playing,
Mm,
and I felt like I stepped into my safe place.
mm,
And I always remember going like, "I love this. Wow, this is what I needed. Thank you, man, this was great." And now I know over a stretch of time, I see that I've been seeing that less and less special
mm.
and more routine. So,
Yeah,
almost like there was a day where it was not an expectation that it was super special that this happened. Then you did it, and you did it, and I loved it, and I loved it, and I loved it. You keep doing it because you know it speaks to my soul,
right.
but now I'm viewing it with a lens of, "Well, yeah,
This is what
this is the way
should
the house
happen.
should happen."
Yeah,
Like, I love this.
right.
And I know the slow fade that it's a
It's a slow
slow fade. It's
fade.
been a long time since I've seen on the podcast.
Casting Crowns, shout out. Okay.
Shout out circa 1982. Um, it's been a slow fade of that going from super special to super expected.
Or mundane, yeah,
So I
yeah.
apologize for that. I'm
I
very sorry.
forgive you.
That's
Um,
crazy, actually.
I think we all have those things though, right? We all have those things that
What are
we
yours? Do
just
you have
get.
some?
Let
What
me
are they?
think. We get so caught up in just the routine of life that I think we get, we just forget to be thankful for the things that our spouse offers.
Mm,
I remember, years ago, a man that, we looked up to lost a spouse that had, they'd been married over 50 years, and I remember hearing stories about his kids showing him how to do things that his wife did for him every day, that he never had to do, and, like, small things like cooking and laundry because his wife did those things, and I'm not saying that that's like, those are stereotypical roles, he was an older man, but what I'm saying is, nonetheless, there were things that were so ingrained in what they did as a couple, and you just take those things for granted,
yeah.
and so it's how do you see those things that your spouse does and call them out and be encouraged that this is an act of love, right? It's an act of love, and I think, it can be unhealthy too, and the other aspect with the other shoe, thinking that your spouse has to thank you all the time for all the things that you do. We'll see couples that, one spouse may do something, like maybe let's say vacuum, or they're the ones that bathe the kids. And it becomes so expected of them that when the other person does it, they're expecting a thank you. And it can be
Mm.
hard because you think, man, like I do this all the time and I don't ever get a thank you.
I think if you view it like hearing you language it that way, if I truly walk in sacrificial living
Mm,
in my marriage, now no roles, no identities, no classifications, none of that takes place because sacrificial living means you may do the dishes tomorrow, but I'm more than willing to do them the next day.
right.
You may have vacuumed last week, but I'm about to vacuum this week.
Mhm.
Sacrificial is going, hey, I see this need. I will sacrifice my time, my desire, my wishes, and I'm going to meet the need.
Right.
And so I'm not a big fan of these roles that lock in place and because you've done them, you always do them. Now, even in our relationship, we have things that you've just like always done them.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't even know, it's not that I guess in my head, now that I'm thinking about it, if you always do them, I guess I do kinda go, "No, I make it an expectation, I guess, that like, that's your job." I'm saying that now going, I see this is a real thing.
Yeah.
Because in my language, I would not say that. Yes, I'll do all that stuff. I got no problem.
And you do like a lot. You do a
But,
lot.
like, you wax the floors.
I can't remember the last time I waxed these floors, if
Okay, I
I'm honest.
wasn't gonna put you on blast like that, but
Don't.
hey, that was me firing over the shop that the
Hey,
floors need to be
you
waxed.
used to wax the floors? I really wish that expectation was
No,
met.
but I'm saying, like, I'm thinking to myself, you've been the only one to ever wax these floors. I would wax the floors. I don't even know how to wax the floors. So, I look at the floor and I go, "Wow, it needs to be waxed. When is she going to wax the floor?"
Man,
I
babe.
now have
An
I
expectation.
have a very unhealthy expectation of you.
Yeah.
Your job was not floor waxer.
I think it's human nature though, right? It's human nature to, I think, have expectations of other people. Um, I think we're always more inclined to see the areas in someone else that they're not, that maybe doing the things we would like for them to do and not see the things in our own self. I think it's a lot easier for us to excuse ourselves than to excuse our partner.
Do you have
And
expectations of me? Like,
I'm
there are some good
sure.
expectations, right? Like, you're not gonna go grab the mower and just start cutting the grass. Well,
Or
neither
our
am I.
son
We'll
does.
tell our son to do it.
Shout out Bella Rosa Landscaping, the best landscaper.
If you live in 3 neighborhoods.
But yeah, he has amazing business, yes. But no, I think that's more human nature, and so it's going against human nature, and I think what we often do is not only do we see the the unmet expectations in our spouse more than we do in ourselves. Often the expectations we want our spouse to meet aligns with our love languages as well. And we had to learn that very early on in marriage. And there's a really funny story that like you've shared at our conferences and stuff. But there was this one night that we were not in the healthiest season of marriage, and he had cleaned the house and he had done the dishes and all the things. And he's like, not even exaggerating, like posted up on the counter, like, "Hey, baby, do you see all that I've done?"
Oh, you remember that?
I
Yeah,
remember.
you remember that. It's
And
like a
he was
photo in your
so
head, isn't it?
proud of himself. We had, like I said, we were not in the healthiest season of marriage, and we had like, a really rough week, and these were things that in this season of life, I did all the housework because you were working out of the home. I was a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids under 5, which is very hard to keep clean, right? It's like cleaning while brushing your teeth and eating Oreos at the same time,
I was
like
working outside the home,
right
not
outside the
out of the
home.
home.
Right, yeah, yeah. And so those were things that I had done, but you were so excited to show me this big reveal, and instead of me being excited and thankful, I was like, "This is what I do every day."
Yeah.
And that was out of just the frustration of my heart that I felt like I wasn't, that there wasn't a gratefulness for what I had done, which was so unhealthy, so unbeneficial to our marriage. But looking back, I you were trying to love me in that season with one of your love languages, which is acts of
Yeah.
service. And for me, I honestly it just was I'd rather have quality time and tell you, you tell me you love me because those are expectations that I desire out of you
Yeah.
because they're my love languages. And so often we're trying to put our spouse or put our expectations of our spouse in these boxes that unless we voice them they're not even aware of.
And I guess that's the key because I don't see problems. I say some expectations are good.
Yeah, yeah,
I
for
don't
sure.
see it as a negative that you
Mm,
expect me to change the light bulbs, to change the batteries in the smoke detectors.
you're right.
You're climbing ladders. I don't want you climbing ladders.
Change the, filters. That's something
Change the filters.
yeah, I'll start listing all your chores. Take out the trash. Just kidding.
I'm like, dang, you had a lot of expectations. Uh, but these are good, right? Like I don't see the negative in those because I don't see the negative in those because you and I have had conversations.
Right, right.
Kurt, I do a lot inside. I really don't care to go out and push the mower in the heat.
Yeah,
Excellent. I'll do that.
yeah.
I handle our finances.
Mhm.
We have certain things that you expect of me and I expect of you because we have voiced them and now they have become our life.
Yeah.
At no point would I not step into yours
Mhm.
and go, I'll do that. And you have times where you ask me, like, I'm overwhelmed. Can you help me with the things that I normally do?
Right.
Can you please help me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what we do. I mean, that's literally why we're in this thing together. But these are all very vocalized. They're known. So it's not I'm not walking around here going, dang, I wish she would get out here and grab the weed eater.
Right.
I think it's actually funny when you because you have done it. It just doesn't even look right to me. It's
Maybe
like
not with the right posture, but no, but what's crazy too is we forget so often like our strengths, and I think that's what's so cool about when we sit with couples in premarital sessions is like looking at the strengths of
Mm,
each couple and knowing, okay, what are your expectations going into marriage? Because one person might be better at the finances than the other one, or that might be more of a strength than theirs, or one spouse might be better at cooking, and it doesn't have to go with these stereotypical roles. What are your strengths? And it's not necessarily all the things we enjoy because most of us don't enjoy cleaning, right? But it's like, what are your strengths? How do we divvy these up so that one person doesn't feel as though they're carrying the brunt of everything, and that my spouse feels like they're being valued.
mm.
It goes also to like another one would be time. How much time do we spend together? One person, aka myself, might be more the introvert and need more time alone. Well, if your your partner, your spouse is an extrovert and wants lots of time together, that's another expectation that we have to talk about because otherwise I'm feeling like we're good while I'm spending a lot of time alone. You feel as though we're not spending any time together or vice versa and you don't feel
What's a
loved.
good like, and that's such a subjective question. I don't know. Like, I wonder when you think about time spent, like, what's a good, healthy expectation of time spent together as a couple?
It is so hard because I think every couple's different. We definitely had seasons where it was unhealthy in the beginning of our marriage, and you were hanging out with the guys a lot, playing softball and doing extracurriculars and sports, and then there's been seasons where, maybe I've been unhealthy, but when you have conversation.
Hey, there were I like the way
Maybe
you did that. Hey, there were times that you were really unhealthy. You name off 5 things. And then there was times that maybe I was unhealthy.
well,
I
I'm
don't know.
the introvert, so me going out with the girls isn't typical, right? It's not gonna happen as much, but
I was saying, what's a healthy expectation of a couple?
it's so hard because I think it all goes back to the conversation. For me,
Yeah,
when
for
we
you.
have really good time together and we've got quality, I am all about you going and hanging with your friends and being filled. I think most spouses see the benefit in their spouse hanging out with someone that's beneficial, that's life-giving, that's going to
Mhm,
challenge them intellectually and spiritually because they come home better. And I think if you're in a healthy place in your relationship and there aren't extreme trust issues and all, because there's always stipulations to everything, but
mhm.
you're in a healthy relationship, you want your spouse to have those things. But it all comes with conversation and it comes with the stipulations that you guys are on the same page as a couple and my needs have been met first. Like your spouse's needs should always be met first.
Yeah, and I think about those early days and playing, softball 4 nights a week, and the expectation that I had was I was gonna play softball,
Yeah.
and I expected if you had an issue with that, you could come with me.
And I'm like, yay.
And when you when when you didn't, when you didn't come with me to those things, it was not like, I didn't view that as, "Oh, that's a me problem." I viewed it, "That's a you problem. This is
Mm,
what I was doing. Like, I don't know why you didn't come." And so, again, that was when you married me, like, we didn't sit down and me go, "Hey, I play softball 4 nights a week." I was just like, "This is what I do, so I expect to continue to do what I do.
right.
You just joined me for the ride."
Mm,
Well, that's an unhealthy thought,
hmm.
but you were also a person that had your own schedule and did what you did. So
Right.
why is it that you have to jump on my train and I don't jump on yours?
Right.
Like, it's just man, like, I think about those were very unhealthy days, and I'm thankful we're not there now. And I love the way that you said it should be the desire of a partner for your spouse to go and be filled somehow,
Right.
and we all feel differently. But it's much easier for you to desire that and want that for me when I've sacrificially loved you and done that for you.
Absolutely. And vice versa.
And vice versa,
Right.
100%.
Right.
I mean, no doubt.
Absolutely.
So, I think it's really going, "Okay, have I given and sown and really held my arm?" And that coulda looked different for everybody,
Yeah.
right? It's not, you don't have to do certain things, but, man, have I invested enough in here sacrificially? Have I poured out everything, and now I need to go refill so that then I can come back and I can give more?
Right. And the tension I think we often see when it comes to this word expectation, the tension is going back to that selfless,
Yeah.
sacrificial, living because most times couples come together and they just expect, well, you're going to understand me and I'm going to understand you and we'll be fine. And you've got two drastically different ideas of how are we going to spend our time? How are we going to split our chores? How are we going to raise our kids? How are we going to spend our money? And so it's just and when the tension comes in is one party and this party and this party they have different expectations
Mm,
and then they just expect the other person to meet theirs and not give any. And so it's how do we compromise? Again, focusing on our strengths, focusing on the things that God did gift us with in order to make the healthiest and best relationship we possibly can. And and it's really, really cool to see when that switches in a couple and they realize, oh my goodness, like maybe my expectations are really too high. Or man, maybe maybe my spouse just desires to be heard and seen, and I'm not loving them well. And that's a beautiful thing because that's where real growth happens. And yeah, so
So listen, we just encourage you
yes,
again, have the conversations. As hard as they may be, as tough as they may be, or as easy as they can be. Conversations that happen up here demand conversations right here.
yes,
Let your expectations be known. And even if I've done that before and they got shut down, I've tried it in the past and I was hurt. Listen, again, your tomorrow can look far different than your yesterday.
yes.
Be willing to have the conversation.
Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, we encourage you, check us out on all of our socials at Broken for Better for more ways you can be plugged in.
Yes, and if we can help you or your family with anything like coaching or other resources, please connect with us at brokenforbetter.com.